Hello guys, I'm Harry and welcome back to another poker lesson from Fresh Casino. Today we're going to be looking at the fundamentals of expectation value. Expectation value, or EV, is a really core concept when you're integrating maths to your poker play. And I'm aiming for this lesson to be about 10 minutes long, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit shorter, but I'm hoping we can use some examples and really truly understand the fundamentals of this concept. But before I start this video, I should acknowledge that I learned about the skill and basically I based this video off an article, which is based off a free poker maths ebook by Owen Gaines. And you can, I will link all of this down in the description below, and I will link it in my article where I sort of expand on expectation value, which is also in the description below. So, all right, so let's begin our lesson. So to begin learning about this, we'll take an example. You've been playing at the casino all night, just playing loads of hands, just grinding away for hours and hours. Anyway, as you leave, a man approaches you and offers you a bet. He will flip a coin. Okay, so let me lay out the ideas of this bet. So basically, there will be a coin toss. If it lands on heads, then you give him £10. If it lands on tails, he gives you £15. Okay, so this is a bet he basically lays out to you and offers you. So to begin to do this, let's have a think. So I know I'm halfway through writing. Would you take the bet? And if you did, how much would you expect to make on average? That's the key about expectation value averages, but I'm going to come back to that. So would you take this bet? So to answer that question, we should look at the profitability of the bet. So there are two possible outcomes, yeah? Two possible outcomes. Heads and tails, but we have one preferred outcome. All right, so the probability of it landing on tails. Okay, oh yes, and our preferred outcome is tails. So what's the probability of this? Well, there's two possible outcomes, and the chance of it being this outcome is 1. So it's 1/2 or 0.5, right? That's easy enough. Like, if you want to know more about how you work out basic probabilities, I also have a lesson on that on the channel, which I'll link in the description below. And there's also an article written about it on freshcasino.org. Right. So our preferred outcome is, of course, that the coin lands on tails. So what's the ratio odds of that? Ratio odds would be 1:1, right? Because for every one time it will land on tails, one time it won't. Okay, so that's the basics of profitability of this scenario. So now let's look at the actual expectation value, yeah? EV for short. So the definition of EV is the average amount of money you can expect to win or lose when you make a wager. And it's really really key to try and remember that. So average amount of money you can expect to win or lose when you make a wager. Right, and I'm sorry for going over that in such detail, but it's really crucial when you're learning about new concepts, especially ones that can be hard to wrap your head around, such as EV, that you have the definition in mind and you keep going back to the definition, even when you're doing the basic examples, because unless you have it ingrained in your mind as such, it's going to be really hard when you get to more complex and real examples, especially when you're in game and so on. Right, so the average amount of money you can expect to win or lose when you make a wager. So what if this average amount is below, if this average amount is below 0, so average amount is less than 0, then you're going to lose money on average. This is called a negative EV bet. So negative EV. If your average amount is bigger than 0, then it's a positive EV bet. You're going to make money on average, and a wager right on 0, that's called neutral EV. And the goal of profitable gambling is to be involved in positive EV bets as much as possible and avoid negative EV bets. So now you're probably wondering, like, okay, that makes sense. Obviously you want your average amount to be more than 0, more frequently than it's less than 0. Of course, that's what makes any profitable player. So, but now, how do we work out EV? So, how do we work out EV? Okay, to work out EV, there are 3 main stages, and you've really got to focus now, because these stages you have to remember and eventually just be able to do them in your head at a click of a finger. So, first of all, you've got to identify each possible outcome and its probability. Right, and then stage 2 is you multiply the probability of each outcome by the result it has. And then the final step, step 3, is you add together all the results. And these are the results you get from step 2. Add together all the results from 2. Right, okay, so we now know the EV calculation. Don't worry about screenshotting this or writing this down, as also in the description below I'm going to upload this whole file that I'm writing on now, so you'll have access to this for yourself. So don't worry about that. So now we know the EV calculation, let's try and work out the EV of our example scenario. So when we're doing step 1, I like to make a little table. So I like to make a table. On one column is our outcome, and then on the other one is the decimal probability. Sorry for my neat handwriting, I'm just trying to write quickly. Right, so, okay, so in this example I laid out earlier, what are the 2 outcomes of a coin toss? Well, clearly there's heads or tails. The decimal probability of either is obviously 0.5 for each. And then, okay, so let's go back to, now that's step 1 done. And I know it seems tedious and easy for this example because it's obvious, but as you move on, you'll get harder and harder examples where you'll need this more and more. So step 2, multiply the probability of each outcome by the result it has. Okay, so heads is, so we multiply the probability by the result, and the result is, if it's head, we pay him £10, so minus, multiply by minus 10, that's the result, and that gives us the outcome of minus £5. Ooh, sorry, it's kind of squeezing in here. And then tails, you multiply decimal probability by result, which is plus 15, and that gives us 0.5 times 15 is £7.5. Okay, and then the final stage, step 3, is add together all the results from step 2, and our results are minus 5 and 7.5, which gives us positive £2.5. Thus, we know the EV of this bet is plus 2.5. EV equals plus 2.5. So this is a positive EV bet. But note well that if we just flip the coin one time, we will never receive £2.50, because obviously that's not a possible option. We're either going to gain 15 or we're going to lose 10. We're not going to get £2.50. EV is simply what you can expect to win on average. So when you're playing poker, you want to be able to make positive EV bets and mass produce them. For example, if you could mass produce this wager we've just discussed 5 times every minute, you would be earning £12.50 every minute. So if you could flip it for an hour, that would be £750 per hour. So the ability to make constant positive EV bets is really powerful. Right, and I know we're rapidly approaching the 10-minute mark, but let's just look at one more complicated example, just to drill this point home. And let's change font color, shall we, to sort of pinky. Okay, so in this scenario, you're playing a dice game with your friend in which every time you roll a 6-sided dice, you owe him £1 unless you roll a 2, in which case he owes you £3. Okay, so if that's easy enough, so let's return to our table I just described for step 1. So we look at the outcome and the decimal probability. Okay, so you're rolling a 6-sided dice. So the outcome is you get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. And what's the probability of either of one of these sides occurring? Well, it's 1 divided by 6, which is roughly 0.166. So it's the exact same for all of those, yeah? So 0.166, 0.166, 0.166, 0.166. Okay, so now let's look at what would happen in each of these rolls. So if we roll, so this is step 2. Remember, step 2 is multiply the probability of each outcome by the result it has. So the result of rolling a 1 is you lose £1. The result of rolling a 2 is you gain £3. And the result of rolling a 3 is you lose £1. The result of rolling a 4 is you lose £1. 5, lose £1, and 6, you lose £1. So then we times these all together. So what is 0.166 times by minus 1? Well, that's obviously minus pound. 0.166. Sorry, it's all the decimals getting in my head. Okay, and then obviously that's going to be the same for all of these. So minus 0.166, same thing. So we're the same calculation. Whereas for 2, you do 0.166 times by 3, which is a positive 0.498. Right, and then so then we add all of these together. Don't worry, I've done this earlier. Don't need to put you through the torture vest, but you can do it yourself. So feel free to pause the video and practice this example now and do it for yourself. But as you can see, it would come to minus 0.332. So in this case, the EV is negative 0.332. So these are not the type of bets you want to make, and mass producing them would lead to very large losses. So in the same way mass producing the positive bet I described earlier led to very big wins, mass producing negative EV bets would lead to very large losses. So basically, to finish off, if you want to make money in poker, it's all about being in as many plus EV plays as you can and as little negative EV plays as you can. And albeit, another quick side note before I finish is being a neutral EV isn't so bad, because often playing microstake poker, being a neutral EV is fine because you will actually end up being a profitable player from the rake back you get. But all that kind of stuff and all more complicated EV examples and actually applying EV to poker will be covered in my next video, where we look at the more intermediate uses of expectation value. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, please check out freshcasino.org. Got all sorts of fantastic free content on there, all for you to gain access to, and have a fantastic day. Good luck, keep on grinding, see you later.